Derek, go ahead. How would you rank them?
I hate to admit it, but I have them numbered exactly the same way Mr. Brooks does. I hate to admit it.
I love you have to say that.
You know how much that just sticks in my craw. Like when you have a bad, you have a good meal, but all of a sudden it just sticks right here.
Yeah,
you can't get that feeling out of it.
Yeah, you get a little indigestion. I got you. All right, let's continue with our Eagles futures. If you're just tuning in, that's what we've been doing, kind of looking forward and looking at our crystal ball and forecasting a little bit what this is going to look like. All right, so I'll hit you guys with the question that I teased when we went out the door here. 3 years from now, whatever, it's today, we're going into 22. So we take it 24, 25 season, whatever. Who's the best quarterback of this lot? Or if you want to rank them, put them in your order, or whatever you want to do. And I it's selective, the ones that I'm choosing here. Like I didn't choose Herbert and Burrow because I feel like they're already more established. Okay.
Right. Yes.
But if you want to throw them in, fine. It's okay. Mac Jones, Trevor Lawrence, Tua, and Jalen Hurts. Of that grouping, who's the best of that bunch that I just laid out there? Barrett.
I'm just going through the numbers and stuff. And I mean, this is truly hard because
it is hard. It's not easy. It really isn't easy.
I look at Trevor Lawrence and Mac Jones, and they're trying to put, Mac Jones did it, and he has next to nothing to throw to. So, and he still had over 3,800 yards, 22 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. He had a 92 rating.
Yep.
Right.
And from a coaching standpoint, he's probably going to be the most coached up and well-versed at defensive prowess because of, his head coach is a defensive guy.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
Because Belichick's more of a defense. He can kind of do both, but he's a defensive guy at heart.
Right.
But he will educate him better than anybody on what he's looking at out there. Even if McDaniels isn't there anymore, the guy on the other, Belichick is going to be the one telling you. It's a great point, but anyway, keep going. But great point.
And so from a coaching standpoint, he'll probably get the most coaching out of the whole situation. He's also the guy that I think won't get a lot of the weapons that these other guys will get. Like they'll bring more to the table as far as bringing people in to encourage these quarterbacks to get better.
In other places, you're saying?
Yeah.
Because Belichick's gotten away with it for years with Brady not having.
And I think he's going to do the same thing.
Some exceptions, Moss, but
right,
yeah,
right.
I hear you. Yep.
So they're not going to, they're not going to really, even though he's the GM too, they're not going to bring in guys to necessarily help him and make him a better player with the weapons, but he'll be more of a cerebral mindset of breaking down defenses, and he'll be a quarterback that basically just going to win just because of, his knowledge of defenses more so than anything. When you look at Tua, they brought in all the weapons. They have a new head coach, an offensive-minded head coach who's more of a gadget guy, a schemer, and how he builds an offense up, because that's the same thing he did when he was with the 49ers. It was McDaniels.
McDaniels.
Yeah.
Yeah, McDaniels, yep.
Mm-hmm. So if you look at the numbers, I mean, Jalen Hurts has better numbers than Tua also. You know what I mean? So
yeah. From
Tua's standpoint, I think that, Jalen Hurts will be better than him. Trevor Lawrence, he's got Doug there. They brought in the weapons. So the better quarterback, I think, is the guy that's, basically been the best quarterback throughout his lifetime, and that's Trevor Lawrence. Just from they're building around him. They now have a head coach that speaks well to quarterbacks and can, bring out the best in the quarterback that he has. So I'm going to go Trevor Lawrence. Then I'm going to go Mac Jones. Then I'm going to go Jalen Hurts. And then I'm going to go Tua.
Interesting. Okay. And it's Mike McDaniel, just for whatever.
Mike McDaniel, yeah.
Mike
McDaniel.
No S on it, McDaniel. I said McDaniels. I'm just correcting myself here. Derek, go ahead. How would you rank them?
I hate to admit it, but I have them numbered exactly the same way Mr. Brooks does. I hate to admit it.
I love you. I love you have to say that.
That hurt. Man, you know how much that just sticks in my craw. Like when you have a bad, you have a good meal, but all of a sudden it just sticks right here.
You
can't get that feeling out of it.
Yeah, you get a little indigestion. I got you. Yeah.
I look at Trevor Lawrence, and Trevor Lawrence has all the mechanics of being an excellent quarterback. He was just he was put in a bad situation. Yeah. And the thing is, the guy is 6'6", and he can run. He can get out of the pocket and run when he has to as well. He can throw on the move. He can do everything you want a frontline quarterback to do. And I do believe that with Doug Peterson down there, Doug Peterson will bring out the best in him. They got him better weapons. They spent money on the offensive line. They spent money to be a better team. I don't think it's going to equate right away into a winner. I think they'll win more games than they won last year. When I look at Mac Jones is in the ultimate system. When you look at that Patriots organization, it doesn't make a difference who they bring in to play, whatever position the case may be. They excel in the Patriots way of doing things, and it starts with the coaching staff. You look at how many coaches they've lost through the years, but yet when they replace the coaches, they still have a consistency about what they do when they put their business on the football field. So with Belichick coaching up Mac Jones will be a very efficient quarterback in the New England's way and Patriots way of doing things. Okay. And so that's the reason I put Mac Jones number 2. I mean, again, the Patriots were one game away from making the playoffs last year with Mac Jones at quarterback. Okay. And, he's not Tom Brady, but Tom Brady wasn't Tom Brady the first, right out the gate. We were wondering, who is this Tom Brady guy?
Gunnar, they won 10. Just to put it in perspective, they won a game more than the Eagles won. They won 10 games.
Yeah. So I think he's number 2. Hurts is 3, and to me, Tua is 4. I look at Tua. I think of Tua more of as a gadget type quarterback. You know what he reminds me of? He reminds me of a Kyler Murray type quarterback. He's a little guy who can scramble, dart, and duck and get rid of the ball. I don't ever think long-term he'll be a franchise quarterback. So I go Lawrence 1, Mac Jones 2, Hurts 3, Tua 4.
All right. Just being, keeping it 100. Trevor Lawrence has been, it's almost like he was bred and you know what I'm saying, he was cloned to be a quarterback, you know what I mean, as far as when he was a young kid from like 7, 8 years old. You've been hearing about this kid at 707 camps and everything else, you know what I'm saying? Since, he was that age, he's always been either number 1 or number 2 quarterback. Actually, the number 1 quarterback, throughout that time is Fields from Chicago. Those two were going back and forth as far as the best quarterback in the nation all the way through high school. Even
they're both
college
from the Georgia area, right? Somewhere.
Yeah. So they've been battling back and forth for a long time, man.
Right.
It's a fair point. I'll go. Look, I'm not a believer at all in Tua at all. I think they're pouring a lot of resources into a guy who ultimately isn't that guy. I'm just not. I don't think he can stay on the field. I don't love his arm. There's a lot of things I don't like about Tua. So I would firmly put him last with not much debate there. Working your way up. Look, I think Mac Jones is going to be the ultimate game manager. And that's not, I don't say that as a backhanded compliment. I don't. I think he's not going to hurt you. He's not going to make a lot of mistakes that kill teams sometimes. I also just don't think he has that spectacular gene in him, but that doesn't mean you can't win a lot of football games and potentially win a Super Bowl, especially with a guy like Belichick as your quarterback. I just don't think he is get on my back and I'm throwing for 350 in this game with 4 touchdowns type dude. Right. I don't think that's who he is. But I still think he showed you a lot last year. I mean, he was really not expected to do a ton, I think, last year. But, to his credit, he had a nice year for them. So I'm really going back and forth between Mac Jones and Hurts, where I have those two. And I think it's a coin flip, honestly. But I'd probably go Hurts 3, Mac Jones 2, Trevor Lawrence 1. I just think Trevor Lawrence has got all the ability in the world. And a lot of it's going to come down to surrounding him. I think he's surrounded by a good coach who can grow him. I also think, if he's willing to listen and he doesn't get sort of stubborn-headed like Wentz got, I think he can be really successful with Doug Peterson there in Jacksonville.
I agree 100%. People say, Frank Reich is the reason we won the Super Bowl. No, Doug Peterson was at the helm of that. People need to understand that Doug Peterson was at the helm of that. Frank Wright was a significant contributor to the success of that team in 2017. But it was Doug Peterson, who really nurtured Carson Wentz, helped him, showed him the way of how to be. Now, Doug Peterson was not a great quarterback, but as a coach, Doug Peterson could relay a lot of information to Carson on how to handle your business, how to see a defense, how to read a defense. So don't overlook that fact. And I'm not saying you guys, but I'm looking at some of the chat comments in here.
Well, I'll give you an example.
Yeah,
Birdman's a good example. He says you should look up Mac Jones' numbers in the net. I know what he did in college, Birdman. I know.
Right.
This isn't college, okay? And my point wasn't Mac Jones stinks. I just don't think at the NFL level he's like a Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow type that's just going to be able to go bananas for you in a certain game or whatever. I think he's a good player, but I just don't think he'll do that at the NFL level. We'll see. And we'll see. I don't know if he has the weapons to do it either. So that's kind of where I'm at.
That's my big thing right there, the weapons to do it. Do I think he has the intangibles to be a really good quarterback? I don't see those intangibles as far as a rocket of an arm. I don't see that.
Who, Mac Jones?
Yeah.
But I agree with everything you're saying. But again, let me emphasize, the Patriots system, the way of doing things there is second to none.
Yep.
And for the life of me, I've never understood how, NFL is a copycat league, how other teams haven't been able to emulate what the Patriots have done to get a measure of consistency with their organization.
Right.
I mean, it's not hard to understand. You look at what they do. This team, they don't care about having first-round draft picks.
Nope.
They'll trade those picks in a minute if they can get a proven player from another team to fit what they need. They don't. Tom Brady, like you said, he didn't have the strongest arm, but Tom Brady goes down as the GOAT of quarterbacks because of the system he was in there.
Yeah.
And you look at the receivers that he had along the way. He had some big name receivers some years he did not have big name receivers. They still won.
Right.
You lost coaches. You lost Romeo Crennel. You lost all these coaches that went on to different places. No matter what coach you brought in, they still won. And I'm saying Mac Jones is in the perfect system. Now, if Mac Jones was with another team, I don't know if I'd put him ahead of Hurts. I really don't.
I agree.
But because he's in New England, I'm putting Mac Jones number 2.
Your environment plays into this discussion.
Yes,
you can not like New England all you want. You could tell me, that's why I use the word sometimes system or manager, but he's in a system that will succeed. Belichick's a chameleon. He will change up his defense week to week. He'll change up his offense week to week. It's never the same game plan. You can ask those guys. He changes everything up. And I think that lends to you continuing to be successful. Anyway, it's interesting where people hear what they want to hear. Like another example, the guy I just cited, he says, well, you're saying Hurts could do that? I didn't say Hurts could do that. Not once did I say Hurts could do that. But anyway, let's move on to the next one.
Hold on. You look at Damian Harris. Look at his numbers. His rushing numbers. He had 929 yards. Stevenson, the other running back, had 600 yards. You got two backs, right around that 1,500-yard mark that, that you can win with that much yardage on the ground with a quarterback that just doesn't turn the ball over.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Agreed.
You can win with that.
Agreed.